Hey folks, Roland Martin here. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, President Barack Obama is fired up and ready to go about the midterm elections. He rips Donald Trump and throws down a challenge to young voters. Vote, damn it! Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blasts Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey for breaking the rules and unusual behavior. Really? The chief hypocrite of the United States Senate is talking about Cory Booker. Okay, we'll talk about that with our panel. Also, I sit down, folks, for a one-on-one with Omarosa about her new book, Unhinged. Why does she now think Donald Trump is a racist? Why the hell did she go work for him in the first place? Also, Trump calls Betsy DeVos ditzy Betsy. And she also talks about her beef with April Ryan and addresses all of y'all who say she is not welcome at the cookout. Yeah, she got an answer for that. Trust me, you don't want to miss that conversation. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
All right, folks, now President Barack Obama getting in campaign mode today, speaking at the University of Illinois, Chicago, where he received an award for public service. Of course, his usual style, where, you know, he's not wild and crazy and nuts like a Donald Trump rally, but he did have some pointed things to say about the orange one.
Over the past few decades, the politics of division and resentment and paranoia has unfortunately found a home in the Republican Party. This Congress has championed the unwinding of campaign finance laws to give billionaires outside influence over our politics, systematically attacked voting rights to make it harder for young people and minorities and the poor to vote, handed out tax cuts without regard to deficits, slashed the safety net wherever it could, cast dozens of votes to take away health insurance from ordinary Americans, embraced wild conspiracy theories like those surrounding Benghazi or my birth certificate, rejected science, rejected facts on things like climate change, embraced a rising absolutism from a willingness to default on America's debt by not paying our bills to a refusal to even meet, much less consider, a qualified nominee for the Supreme Court because he happened to be nominated by a Democratic president. None of this is conservative. I don't mean to pretend I'm channeling Abraham Lincoln now, but that's not what he had in mind, I think, when he helped form the Republican Party. It's not conservative. It sure isn't normal. It's radical. It's a vision that says the protection of our power and those who back us is all that matters, even when it hurts the country. It's a vision that says the few who can afford high-priced lobbyists and unlimited campaign contributions set the agenda. And over the past 2 years, this vision is now nearing its logical conclusion. So that with Republicans in control of Congress and the White House, without any checks or balances whatsoever, they've provided another $1.5 trillion in tax cuts to people like me who I promise don't need it and don't even pretend to pay for them. It's supposed to be the party supposedly of fiscal conservatism. Suddenly, deficits do not matter. Even though just 2 years ago, when the deficit was lower, they said, I couldn't afford to help working families or seniors on Medicare because the deficit was an existential crisis. What changed? What changed? They're subsidizing corporate polluters with taxpayer dollars, allowing dishonest lenders to take advantage of veterans and students and consumers again. They've made it so that the only nation on earth to pull out of the global climate agreement, it's not North Korea, it's not Syria, it's not Russia or Saudi Arabia, it's us, the only country. There are a lot of countries in the world. We're the only ones. They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? Its central organizing principle in foreign policy was the fight against communism, and now they're cozying up to the former head of the KGB, actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened? Their sabotage of the Affordable Care Act has already cost more than 3 million Americans their health insurance. And if they're still in power next fall, you better believe they're coming at it again. They've said so. In a healthy democracy, there's some checks and balances on this kind of behavior, this kind of inconsistency. But right now, there's nothing. Republicans who know better in Congress, and they're there, they're quoted saying, yeah, we know this is kind of crazy, are still bending over backwards to shield this behavior from scrutiny or accountability or consequence, seem utterly unwilling to find the backbone to safeguard the institutions that make our democracy work. And by the way, the claim that everything will turn out okay because there are people inside the White House who secretly aren't following the president's orders, that is not a check. I'm being serious here. That's not how our democracy is supposed to work. These people aren't elected. They're not accountable. They're not doing us a service by actively promoting 90% of the crazy stuff that's coming out of this White House and then saying, don't worry, we're preventing the other 10%.
All right, folks, time to talk to our panel. We have Chris Metzler, of course, conservative analyst, also the author of the book, The Search for America's Soul, and Lauren Victoria Burke, political analyst and writer for NBC Black. Now, folks, in that same speech, President Obama really went out to young people saying, look, you now comprise the largest group of people in America, but you can't change this country if you just tweet about it, if you just talk about it, that you have to actually register and vote. Just your initial thoughts about, his, some say, coming out party, if you will, for the 2018 midterm.
He's said this before, this whole thing about young voters have to come out and vote. They did come out and vote. They voted for him. That's how he got into office. I don't know why.
Well, in the speech he said in
is on
2014
young voters.
midterms, they did. In the speech he said, the 2014 midterms, 1 out of 5 young voters voted.
Right. Well, I mean, that's great. I think, though, that across the voting demographics, we can pick out each group and target them and say that everybody needs to vote. We're seeing every sign right now that the midterms, we're going to see some sort of a surge. We saw a record number in Florida when Andrew Gillum won. So I'm not sure why he's targeting young voters in particular. I'm also, even though I think his historiography is absolutely correct, obviously everything he just said about Donald Trump is correct. We know that Donald Trump is dangerous and scary. We understand all that, but it is interesting to hear him bring up tax cuts, given that he agreed to extend the Bush tax cuts twice in late 2010.
After the 2010 midterms, when Democrats got pummeled.
Late 2010 and then early 2013. So tax cuts is not a topic he should focus on very much. I was really surprised that he sort of went into that. But I get it. I mean, what he's saying generally about this president is all true. It's very dangerous, etc. Hopefully he can motivate voters.
But, Chris, here's the piece. And, look, we just have to be honest. And, again, I know the people out there, they're like, oh, my God, no, really, don't say it. But the bottom line is this here. Democrats lost nearly 1,000 seats in the 8 years Obama was president.
Right.
I talked to people who were senior officials in his White House who said one of the greatest failures was that they spent more time focused on Obama for America, which became Organizing for America,
right,
and not the Democratic National Committee. And they were not putting that money in the infrastructure on the ground to drive people to vote. And so everybody keeps talking about these races as a referendum on Trump. I disagree. I also believe that what you're seeing here is also a referendum on the 8 years of Obama, where people said, you know what? We expected this to happen. It didn't happen. Now we're not going to sit here and hope we're going to do it ourselves because we didn't like what you didn't do.
And that's exactly right. Look, from the standpoint of Obama, to borrow a statement from the Republican nominee in Florida, that was a very articulate presentation. However, from the standpoint of the substance of it, it is exactly the problem. The former President Obama had the opportunity to do these things. He did not do them. And so it seems to me rather odd that now he's coming out, entering into the election with the same message, a message in which people are saying, okay, we didn't get it. We didn't get what you were supposed to do. Now you want us to do it. Why? And that's the fundamental problem I have with this. And I also think from the standpoint of Democrats, it is very much, the races are very local races rather than a national race. And, okay, go out and vote.
Well, first of all midterms, first of all, congressional races are 700,000 people elections.
Yes.
And not national elections.
Correct.
So U.S. Senator races are what's happening in the state. where national comes in, they come in with money.
Yeah.
They come in with infrastructure.
Correct.
They come in with people. Well,
Correct.
that's where the parties come in.
Yes.
Because when Howard Dean was chair of the DNC, he kept talking about a 50-state
Right.
strategy.
Right.
You have to put the money into your state parties.
Yes.
And then your state parties put the money into your county
Correct.
parties.
Correct.
And that's how you drive folks on the ground. And again, and let me say it right now, I know all the people who love President Barack Obama. Okay, and we all appreciate his historic presidency. But he didn't do it.
That's right.
I'm telling you what I reported for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I was yelling on Washington Watch on TV One and on News One now that you have to put the resources on the ground. And so they are now, like the whole deal that he's doing with Eric Holder and gerrymandering. Okay, you're doing that now, but the reality is that was happening in 2010 and 11 and 12 and 13.
Right.
And so, look, just so y'all know, I talked to a high-ranking DNC official, okay, who used to work for Obama. He said, bruh, you got to accept some of the responsibility for us losing 1,000 seats.
That's correct.
And so what the party now is having to deal with is it's having to deal with you must have infrastructure. National, state, county, local. You got to.
And
The other
that's where the
problem with that-
Republicans have an advantage, though, because it is, in fact, that infrastructure that makes a difference. Who are you going to fund? If we have somebody who's running in a race that's D plus double digits, and we're not going to fund that particular person.
And I'll give you an example. So go to my iPad. Go to my iPad. Some guy, Tim O'Neill on Facebook. Roland, be quiet. You're acting like an A better than you do. No. See, this is the problem right here.
That's right.
The people, I need the people who are watching, I need y'all to understand. And yeah, I call you out, Tim O'Neill, some other people. You have to be honest. Okay? If y'all want me to be honest about Republicans, like in Kentucky, they finally called out some racist who's running in Kentucky.
Yeah.
If you want to be honest, Democrats have to be honest.
Right.
And we have to stop acting like, let me be perfectly clear. Henry, go to the shot of Dr. King on the memorial. Y'all, that is not President Obama. Okay? We have to stop acting like we can't speak critically of what he didn't do and the party didn't do.
Correct.
They are having to right the wrongs today of a bad party infrastructure. And so Republicans had to deal with the exact same thing.
Right.
Republicans had to deal with not having a strong national party.
We did.
State party, county parties.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, because that's how you win elections. You win elections by out-organizing, out-mobilizing, and getting folks to the polls.
Well, even more granularly, and I'm surprised he didn't bring this up, is, of course, the Democrats fell asleep at the wheel when it came to the maps and redistricting. And the way
Yes.
you fall asleep at the wheel is you don't pay attention to your state and local races in terms of state houses.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying Barack Obama should have been responsible for that granular level, but of course the level above that, they're all controlled by each level.
But you called it granular level.
The other thing, though, about
Hold on.
the president...
No. I want you to move to that point yet. Because, see, this is where we need to educate everybody who's watching, okay? When we talk about, because you said redistricting, somebody who's watching right now going, redistricting. What that means is very simple. The party that wins the most seats in the states controls how the congressional lines are drawn, but not just the congressional lines. They control how all the lines are drawn, the state rep and the state senate. So why do the Republicans have an 81-seat majority in Florida? Because they drew the line. Why do Republicans have a supermajority in North Carolina? Because they drew the lines. Why is it that Democrats could beat Republicans in Wisconsin by 10 points and still be in the minority? Because they drew the lines. And so redistricting, gerrymandering, is based upon what happened on state level. And so all those people voted in 2008, didn't vote in 10, 16 states flipped to total GOP control.
Yeah.
And what did they do? Redrew the lines, voter suppression.
Of course.
Voter ID, slashing polling locations. And so that's what November means. And to the folks who are watching, y'all can, again, be mad at me all y'all want to about Obama. But what happens in this November sets up 2020 when the census kicks in to redraw the lines again.
And what's actually,
Lauren, then Chris.
What's actually going to happen is the Democrats are probably going to take the House and maybe even the Senate, and hopefully they will, work on the infrastructure piece. But the other thing about what the president said, what President Obama said that is interesting is that, his messaging gets very in the weeds, and I'm not sure you need to get in the weeds when you have a historically bad presidency like Trump. So he's getting in the weeds, but really all he needs to do is state the basic and obvious deficiencies and scary elements of this president. So it's always interesting to watch the fear that the Democrats have of bringing up Trump or bringing up impeachment. Now, all of a sudden, Al Green in Texas looks like he was way ahead of his time because he was the first to bring up impeachment. But really, that needs to be discussed. And I don't know why they're afraid to say, this is a historically bad president.
Chris, then first of all, Melanie Campbell, of course, Black Women's Roundtable, National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. Glad to have you on the panel as well. Chris, what's your comment? Then I'm going to go to Melanie.
Yeah, so let's be very clear in terms of the Republican strategy. Our strategy is very clear. We will be loud, we may be wrong, but we're going to be loud and wrong at the same time. And from the standpoint of state politics, too many people are just paying attention to national politics. That's not where the action is happening.
That's going to catch up to you on November 6th.
Melanie, and again, I thought overall it was a good speech by President Barack Obama. But the whole idea, again, of imploring young people as well, I still go back to something I did at the NAACP, I did with messaging. And for me, look, this is what I do. And when I listen to people, they talk about, okay, why you got to vote? My deal is you look somebody in the eye who's 17 and say, you got to vote because the Parkland kids who will kill can't.
Right.
You got to vote because Trayvon can't.
Right. You
got to vote because you going to school in a year or 2 years and you damn sure want a loan and you want to be able to do it. You should vote to make sure you don't get screwed by some for-profit school because Betsy DeVos has now let the wolves back into the hen house. You need to go out there and vote in November because you should want to be having on your parents' health care till you're 25 and this dude is going to take it. Look, highbrow, I get all that. That's great. But this thing comes to basic, fundamental things that appeal to black people, white people, Latino people, Asian people, men, women, gay, straight, don't matter.
Cornell Belcher had it right 2 years ago when he said it was about black power. It's the themes that are resonating and getting us to show up in the primaries, although it needs to be better, is about power. It's about understanding that what Donald Trump represents, it's about race. It's a racial issue. We understand about that this man is a racist, in that you have sessions in the Department of Justice. Folks in the South understand what sessions mean to us. That's why when Doug Jones won that election, he was blessed to win it because we understood that there was something else going on. And so when I've been in Georgia, and in Florida, and even in Pennsylvania, everybody's talking about the same thing, that the racism is rampant, and also in Alabama. The racism is rampant. Folks are being bolder with it, louder with it. Heck, I got on a plane going to Birmingham for a conference and had on my immigration is a black thing and walked. I wasn't blessed to have first class on this one. Right? I had to go sit with the people. And the amount of folks, I'm going from Atlanta to Birmingham, and the white men who pretty much everybody sitting in first class that particular flight were all white, looking at me like they ready to take me out. So the reality, people, the racism, the overt racism, people saying, not just saying that they showing it, and then you have a president of the United States that is actually the commander-in-chief of racism in this country.
Well, here's
why
another
won't
thing.
the Democrats message that? Why won't the Democrats message what you just said?
And when I say message it, Republicans have always been great with bumper stickers. This ain't that hard.
Right.
I have been, look, first of all, y'all, I said to him directly, I said, Mr. President, man, some of the sickest people in America are broke white people. Go to the most red place in Alabama or Mississippi and say, I passed the Affordable Care Act for y'all. Do you know how sick y'all are? Here are your county numbers. You're this, you're this, you're this. The bill is also for y'all.
Right.
And I said, stop going to these little suburban counties in Virginia or Ohio. Sometimes you got to go to the belly of the beast
People want to hear.
Well,
and look them in the eye and challenge them
Right.
and not let them off the
The
hook.
last to do that were Lyndon Johnson and Robert Kennedy. Why a contemporary Democrat hasn't tried that is a mystery to me. I mean, there's plenty of places to do that. The white poor, to me, are actually the most ignored group in American politics, which Donald Trump figured out and took advantage of.
No,
so why they don't message to
they're
them?
not
I don't
ignored.
know.
They're not ignored.
now.
As Howard Dean says, and Chris, you know, being Republican, they hit them with God gave guns.
Right.
Now they hit them with God gave legal immigration.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not
And they're running
ignored.
with
They're
that.
ignored.
They don't talk to them about money,
Policy,
but they ain't
they're
ignored.
No,
They're ignored when it
ignoring
comes to
is not something that's happening to poor whites.
When it comes to real policy with regard to poverty, they are ignored.
No.
And Donald Trump
No, hold on. No,
Donald Trump
they're
figured it out.
they're not ignored. What Republicans,
Yeah, they
Chris,
message
back me up on this.
message.
They're not
Message
ignored,
is different
Lauren.
message.
What Republicans are doing is
That's the message you
No,
want
the
to hear.
Republicans are purposely not discussing poverty with them.
Right.
Yeah.
They are saying they the reason you broke.
don't have. That's right.
They the
Right.
reason
You
you're
gotta have
sick.
that scapegoat.
Right.
So why
Right.
discuss poverty?
Why wouldn't Paul Ryan discuss that issue?
Because he doesn't have to. He knows if I hit him with legal immigration, I got
done.
him. I ain't going to discuss poverty with him
Well,
because they're not going to vote for
He
him.
didn't have to, but I think Donald Trump sort of unlocked something there, now, didn't he? Now they
No,
may,
it
in
was up.
fact, talk about.
No, they
No.
won't.
No.
No, they won't.
Ain't gonna happen.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
No.
Donald Trump
Let's see.
hit the illegal immigration button.
I mean, they're playing Southern strategy. We know that.
No.
We
This
know
ain't
they're playing
Southern
Southern strategy.
strategy.
No. But
They
it's-
playing
Yeah, they're
50
playing
state
race politics.
strategy.
No, they're playing
race.
They're playing race
playing-
politics.
Right, that's
Chris,
Southern
go ahead.
strategy.
Race politics.
That started with Southern strategy.
No, well, but it's a 50-state strategy. For me, as somebody who's working with a number of the folks you're talking
You
about,
in the room.
They do not feel ignored. Trust me on that.
Now they don't.
No, they don't feel
Now they
ignored.
don't.
In
I'm
fact,
telling you.
they feel embraced.
I'm telling you.
Right.
Again, I think great speech by President Barack Obama, but what it boils down to is it's not going to be speeches.
No.
No.
It's not going to be tweets.
It's gonna be
Nope.
around, okay.
It's not going to be TV ads.
It's
This
going
thing
door to
is
door.
going to be neighborhood by neighborhood,
Block by
block by block,
That's
precinct
it.
Right,
by
right.
precinct,
Right.
literally
Right.
going on doors.
Right.
And that's
Are
what
y'all
it is.
registered?
And Roland, it's also not going into the city of Atlanta. It's going to Clayton County. It's going
Right.
down to Albany, Georgia.
East
It's going
Point.
where our people have been pushed out. Gentrification has run rampant in any
Chicago.
urban
They're
city
now in the
that you
southern
think of.
suburbs.
And so we
Yep.
have to go out to where our folks have been pushed and go into the rural areas as well. My sister Latasha Brown,
Yep.
on that bus tour, got big bus that's saying the South will rise again.
Yep.
With Black Voters Matter, right?
Yep.
Why is that? And what did the T-shirt say? It's all about us. When we say it's power of the sister vote, it's about me.
Yep.
You got to speak to my issues. That's what's getting our folks to show.
Right.
And that's why our people are winning. That's why you have been jealous over there in Maryland, and Stacey Abrams in Georgia,
Right.
and Andrew Gillum, all of which I say I can touch their lives,
Right.
place in my life, to see them, because they're speaking, not necessarily all the messaging is there,
Right.
but I can see you, I can see me in you.
Hold tight
Right?
one
Not just
sec.
because you're black.
Hold on one second. Y'all gonna really, I know y'all gonna enjoy this next conversation. So I had a chance to interview Omarosa
Oh, Lord.
a little bit earlier today about her book, Unhinged.
I know the book.
And unlike all the other networks, I want to know about all the black stuff. So there's some stuff that we cover in this interview that you didn't hear on the rest of the network that she wrote in her book. The panel's gonna comment. They all gonna comment on this
I haven't read it.
after we play it. All right. Hit play. This is me chatting with Omarosa. Omarosa, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So let's get right to it. We'll start, though, not with your book, but with another book. Bob Woodward has dropped his book. Folks are talking about it. And what's interesting is that in his book, he is describing many things that you've also described, that really this place that is in utter chaos, and a president, frankly, who is sort of being treated like a child and leading like one.
Yeah, one of the congressmen referred to the White House as an adult daycare. And I have to say that I wouldn't disagree. There were times that we walked into the Oval and we knew that we were not going to have a productive day because he was in a really bad mood or he saw something that triggered him, he certainly wasn't going to comprehend any of the policies, the briefs that we put in front of him. And so we would just scratch the morning and try in the afternoon. But that's how it was trying to work with this president.
And the fact you describe in your book him being barely literate, not wanting to read documents, having the reading comprehension, if you will, of an 8th or 9th grader.
Yeah, he can read, but reading and comprehension are two different things. And what we quickly realized is if we simplified all of the policies down to a one-pager, created bullets, and made it look appealing, then it would keep his attention long enough for him to get the basics.
And so, surely as an adult, you're sitting there going, okay, this is the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. This is the most powerful person in the world, and you're having to handle this person like a middle schooler.
Yeah, but the thing that you think about are the consequences for not having him make those decisions. There are decisions in the White House that only one person in the entire country can make, and that's the president. And so we quickly realized that if he didn't make those decisions, things couldn't move forward. I realize now when Woodward talks about how Rob Porter would remove documents or move documents, why some of the documents had to be auto-penned. Some things can be auto-penned, but there were things that needed his signature that we would just wait and delay, which would delay funds, which would delay things going to the Hill, and would delay advancing our agenda.
So, looking at that, your thoughts about the anonymous post mm-hmm. or columns in the New York Times. Folks are saying that person, if they believe that way, they should just quit. Others say that they are doing a disservice to Trump. He's called it treason. How would you assess that person who wrote that piece?
I would say that it's very important to have adults in the room. It's important to have people who have had prior service in the government around him. We could all quit and protest. Who would be left to run the government? And a lot of that was what I processed while I was there. You can see that a lot of the administration officials battled with, do we stay and try to right the ship, or do we jump off the side of the ship and just leave it to crash into an iceberg? That's really what we were faced with. And I think that the person who's decided to remain, to stay and try to right the ship, you know, people are going to villainize them. I would say it takes courage to stay in that White House. It is one of the most toxic environments I've ever worked in.
So the question is, why did you even go along with the campaign, go work for him? In the book you say, during the campaign, you said, he's not a racist, he's racial, and you base that upon how he treated you.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yet you hear the comments, we hear the Access Hollywood tape, mm-hmm. we see how the bullying tactics at rallies. We saw all of that. I've been using the hashtag, we tried to tell you, meaning black folks should try to tell everybody. 94% of black women, 85% of black men did not vote for this man. We tried to tell you. And so why did you, as somebody who was supporting Hillary Clinton, even go work for him and campaign for him and champion him to be president?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble saying this, but I think you'll appreciate it. I had worked in the Clinton White House, and I hate to use this term, Roland, but I'm just going to use it because it's authentic. I had become desensitized to a president behaving badly because I was in the White House during the impeachment process for Clinton. That's not justifying it. I'm just being transparent. By the time I get to, you know, the experience that I described with the Clintons, as you know, I worked for Ready for Hillary, trying to raise money for her. And what she did with Clinton and all of the black staffers who had been loyal, not hiring them, taking one staffer. By that point, I was disenchanted with the Clintons. And when Donald called and said he needed my help, I thought, what harm would there be to help my friend? And I did describe it clearly in the book as a friend helping a friend.
But did you also think he wasn't going to win? So it was like, what the hell?
I say that. I mean, it's true. I thought there's no way that Donald will beat George Bush, Ted Cruz, Ruby, all these people with tremendous amount of experience, donors, money, messaging, momentum, relationship with the media. I thought, I'll support my friend. We'll have a good time. Donald will go launch his Trump TV, which is what he was going to do if he didn't win.
And so during that, you got black folks who are calling you a sellout, calling you a traitor, who are blasting you, who are saying, how can you work for this man who started his career off being under investigation and being charged by HUD for not wanting to rent to black folks? How did you justify that when you had this whole set of...
Justify the name calling?
No, justify still campaigning on his behalf, going to rallies, saying why he should be elected, why black folks should look forward to him being president.
Because I am of the school of politics that believes that we should have representation on all sides, that we should have someone in the Republican Party, we should have some in the Independent Party, Green Party, the Democratic Party. I do not believe that African Americans should give 100% support to the Democratic Party, or they will be taken for granted,
right,
exploited, and used. So let me ask the second part of your question. But did you believe
it? When you were saying that, you believe it, or was it sort of, okay, this is what I got to do?
I was never a Republican. I always said I was a Trumplican, meaning I wanted my friend to win. That's the bottom line. I wanted Donald Trump to win. Now, when you start going back and assessing things that happened with his family, when his family was sued, like you said, for housing, when people started talking about Central Park 5, I had a chance to ask him face-to-face about those things, to listen to his justification.
What did he say?
The first thing, the housing thing, he said they sued my family's company, and they sued multiple companies at the time. It wasn't just a singular lawsuit on Trump. And he explained what happened. He said that he wasn't trying to block out African Americans. I had to take him at that. But Central Park 5, when he explained that to me, if you understood, which I didn't understand, that they had confessed, and so that was when Donald called for the death penalty. I'm not justifying, I'm just explaining what he said to me. He said once they confess, that's when he went after them.
But during the campaign, though, first of all, after they had been exonerated, settlement paid, he was asked, he said, I still stand by it. That was last year while we were in the White House.
He stood by it, even with DNA. And I said, are you crazy? There's DNA evidence that shows that they did not do this. And he still said, I believe they were guilty, which is when I came to realize that it wasn't just him processing the information wrong. There was something serious and wrong with Donald Trump.
Do you believe that he flat out, he says things, and part of his attitude is, I will never apologize. I will never backtrack. Yet he loves to demand apologies from other people.
Yeah, Donald Trump never apologizes. That is his MO. That is something that he is committed to in life, that he believes is a sign of weakness, so he will never, ever apologize. Which I think makes him look more weak. It doesn't make him look strong.
So you believe that excerpt in the Bob Woodward book where he says that was the worst effing speech he had to give when he had to criticize the white supremacists and neo-Nazis,
I saw it with my own eyes. When I went in there, I don't know if you remember, we tried to arrange a meeting with Tim Scott. Tim Scott came, and they thought that was enough for race reconciliation after Charlottesville, and I lost it.
Meet with the one black United States
Meet the
Republican
one black,
senator.
and he really didn't feel that he needed to do any more. He felt like Obama let down the country, which I thought was ridiculous, and not healing all the racial problems in the country in the 8 years that he had. And so I had to take him to task. Of course, I wanted to quit and protest. I was ticked off. And then I realized if I leave, there will be no one sitting here to keep this man in check from those impulses that are so dangerous for our country. And I looked to find one of the black Republicans who were begging to serve, who would be willing to take that position.
But they say you blocked him. Kay James has said you flat out blocked her. Michael Steele's, others. I mean, they say you were the biggest impediment to black Republicans.
But they also say I was weak and I didn't have any power. So you can't have it both ways. Roland, they can't say I was ineffective, I didn't do my job, and I didn't have any clout, and then in the same breath say I had the ability to keep hundreds of black Republicans from coming into the White House. I wasn't the head of presidential personnel. I wasn't the head of HR, but they want to assert that because the truth is the Republican Party has had a bad relationship with black Republicans since still. Remember, they had the black exodus. All the black Republicans quit. Reince Priebus ran against Michael Steele, accused him of stealing.
You say in your book that when you tried to have this meeting in Black History Month,
Reince took their names off. He went through and said he gave me problems. Elroy Saylor gave me problems. Michael Steele gave me problems. When I said, well, appoint Elroy to a position, he said,
Elroy Saylor.
Elroy Saylor.
Elroy Saylor, folks who don't, chief of staff to Congressman J.C. Watts.
He actually said that Elroy would never pass the background. He's got criminal stuff. I mean, this is the stuff that came out of Reince Priebus's mouth, not my mouth. And he had problems with Michael Steele and some of the other black Republicans, but they want to pin it on me. The truth is they had issues. They had a black exodus. All the black Republicans quit because they had beef with the party. That has nothing to do with me.
I want to talk about language. And you say, when he gave a speech, you said, I begged him not to say, what do we have to lose? And also, you people. And you said he never seemed to understand that. He didn't understand that you people and saying the blacks love me, that's a problem.
Yeah, he and other white men in the administration had problems with language and how they communicated with black people. It wasn't because they weren't told, because I corrected him again and again. But he says, well, it's not, I don't mean anything harm. That's just how I've been saying it for 50 years.
When he made his comment about shithole countries, Haiti was one of those countries. You went to Haiti for the inauguration of a new president, and you write him saying, why did you choose that shitty country as your first foreign trip? You should have waited until the confirmations were done and gone to Scotland and played golf at Turnberry, of course, where he owns. And yet you say you had to remind him, dude, you
campaigned in Miami. We went down to repeatedly, over and over again. We made all these commitments, but not only that, I went down, I made commitments, I went to the country, made commitments to the president of Haiti. So when he started talking negatively about them, of course those comments came out publicly. It was also my word on the line of saying we were going to do better by Haitians than what the Clintons did. But we didn't. We've let them down. We turned our back on them. And he stopped TPS protections for Haiti. That was one of the primary things that I was fighting for while I was in the administration.
So that was just for show. That was just him talking to a group. I'm going to help you.
No, I believe he wanted to. Once he got in, the Republicans around him shut him down, and they forced their agenda on him. And Donald Trump started to align himself with them. Remember, he wasn't.
But he hasn't changed, though. He hasn't. Even though supposedly he's now more in control, it's not like he's rescinded that Haiti decision. It's still in effect.
It is still in effect, and the same with El Salvador and several other countries. The problem is that because we've decided, and when I say we, black leadership has decided, we're not going to deal with them for 4 years, we'll just see what happens. The problem is they can make decisions about TPS and not get any pushback because no one's going in there to demand that they extend TPS because the conditions in Haiti have not improved for people to return. 40,000 Haitians back to Haiti would completely burden that economy that the president of Haiti is trying to rebuild.
You call Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller alleged racist, but then you go in on Jeff Sessions in his racial history. Do you believe that Jeff Sessions is a racist who does not like people of color?
Yes, absolutely.
And why?
Well, first of all, his track record. I mean, not only has he used words that are inappropriate towards African Americans, but the aggressive ways that he's dismantled civil rights protections in this Justice Department is just mind-blowing. This man has worked to make sure that not only where we talk about justice and civil rights and keeping our inner cities safe and giving the funding so that police and community relations be improved, he's rolled those back so that instead of them improving, they've actually deteriorated. And I would use Chicago as a prime example.
And with that, it's very interesting because this president often loves talking about Chicago.
He does.
Has not gone.
Refuses to go.
Refuses to go. If questioned, where's your plan? There is no plan.
It's because he has a beef with Rahm Emanuel. It's really as simple as that. That's why also Puerto Rico's suffering, because he had an argument with the mayor of San Juan.
So damn the people.
These petty arguments are keeping people from getting the help that they need.
So you're saying that the reason for him saying he did a great job in Puerto Rico, we now know up to 3,000 folks died. I mean, just the numbers there are just incredible. More people who died there than died in 9/11. He still says we did a great job.
Yeah, because he thinks that if he says it, then so it's true. He just made a statement: "Don't believe what you see, only believe what you hear from me." And that's because he has this cult following, a cult of personality that will actually believe the things that are coming out of his mouth.
You talked about the work that you did and what you were and the black folks you were trying to help. One of the big issues, obviously, was HBCUs, and you took lots of fire for that. The presidents went there, the photo they took in the Oval Office, and do you believe that, based upon, again, what you've written here, that was the one area you were able to at least do something while you were there?
I did a lot with HBCUs. One example is getting year-round Pell Grants. The Obama administration decided to cut Pell Grants for the summer. As you know, HBCUs suffer during the summer without having the proper funding. Went to Mick Mulvaney and lobbied and fought for that. And that was one of the things I was most proud of. But also bringing the 100 HBCU students to Washington and allowing them to see government up close and personal firsthand. Mind you, I did that with no staff, Roland. Remember, Valerie Jarrett had 14 people working in her office. She had a fiefdom. I only had an assistant. And so I was able to accomplish these things, not to the great success that I wanted, because I just didn't have the resources, but to the best of my ability.
Also moving the HBCU initiative from Department of Education back into the White House, and I want to deal with Department of Education because you clearly have no love for Betsy DeVos. You accompanied her when she went to Bethune-Cookman, Howard University, and you write that they left you where they were supposed to travel somewhere, and they left early. She told you to call Uber?
She did. She did. We had just faced protesters, and people were very angry and very aggressive and wanted to get violent with us. And yet the next morning, she left early and said, well, just Uber over to the building. And I took an Uber, all right. I took it right to the airport and flew back to the White House.
And then you said you went to the White House and you tell Trump, which you referred to as DJT, you said he shook his head in disgust. He said she is Ditzy DeVos.
Because
that's what he calls her?
Yes, he calls her Ditzy DeVos. First of all, he has nicknames for everybody, derogatory nicknames. And he said he was going to get rid of her because he had basically cut a deal for her to serve because of the amount of money that she and her family have raised to support his efforts and his campaign as well as his inauguration.
But about her, you say the depth and breadth of her ignorance is a travesty for the children. I can tell you after years sitting in those meetings and observing her that she's woefully inadequate and not equipped for her job. And then you said she does not care about your children. Be afraid. Be very, very
Look
afraid.
Look at the decision she just made towards Howard University. Put them in a category that's going to put $108 million burden on an institution that was already struggling. Put them in a classification that's equivalent to a beauty school. I think that that was something that she did being malicious because she wanted to send a message and because she does not understand the historical contributions that HBCUs made to this country.
I said earlier during the campaign you said he's not racist, he's racial. You've now changed your opinion. What caused the change for you to say, no, Donald Trump is racist?
Oh, well, first of all, hearing the tape of him using the N-word, that's number one, most profoundly.
So you've actually heard the tape of him using the N-word?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you that I feel that I put myself out there. Hundreds of interviews, you saw them, saying, this is my friend, he's done so much, he's not racist, over and over and over again, only to find out that he absolutely doesn't give a damn about African Americans or the community. And in fact, he speaks that way, calls us names, and thinks that we're beneath him. That, to me, putting myself out there over and over and over again is probably one of my greatest regrets.
So by working on this campaign and then going to the White House, you saw a side of him that you had not seen in the 14 previous years?
Within the first week. Within the first week, when they passed the travel ban, they called it a travel ban, but you and I know it was a Muslim ban. And I went to them to explain, him and Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, and said, this is a ban towards people of color. And they're like, what? I'm like, 90% of Muslims are people of color. You are banning people of color from coming to the country. And they're like, you can't look at it that way. They're coming from dangerous countries. And I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. And that was the first sign that this administration was going to try to harm people of color through their policies, decisions, and actions.
We talked about it on my show, the number of people who have been removed from this administration who have made racist comments, whether on radio, whether on print. Why do you think folks who are racist are very comfortable in this administration?
They're very comfortable because there is a dog whistle that goes out to let them know it's now safe to say whatever you want to say. Things that used to be said in private and behind the scenes are now openly stated. And then when they get busted, they say, oh, we didn't know that that was harmful. Like saying, don't monkey this up. Ron
DeSantis in Florida.
Yeah, he said, oh, I didn't know that was a racial statement. That's absolutely not true. Donald Trump has set an environment that's conducive for these folks to show their true colors. And their true colors are that they do not care about people of color, and they are not trying to advance any agenda that will build unity in this country.
You're a person of faith. What do you say to white evangelicals, white conservative evangelicals who say nothing, who, when he makes his comments, they do nothing? I've challenged Paula White, and I've said...
You personally challenged?
I challenged her in a commentary. I sent her an email. She said her comment was, when she gave it, she was talking to one of the television shows, and I blasted her. She said the comments were taken out of context. She says, you know, she and I will talk when she got back. I emailed her, and I said, okay, let's do it. And then as we've exchanged, I've texted her and exchanged emails. And my deal to her is, I want to sit down. I want her to come sit down with me because for somebody who, frankly, has gained her popularity from preaching to black people, leading a diverse church, an African-American church there in Florida. I believe she owes black folks an explanation as someone who's leading his council. And so
she is the leading deciding factor on faith in our administration. And, you know, I talk in the book and wonder, why did he put her in a position where she could make these decisions? She literally would come into our office in the Office of Public Liaison and tell Ginny Corn and other staffers, this is what we're going to do with faith. But she let me carve out black faith just for myself. Meanwhile, she was making decisions for the evangelicals to advance their agenda.
So when you see them say nothing, you see them not even decry him when he makes the Charlottesville comment, are they in essence co-signing and saying, fine, as long as you give us right-wing conservative judges, you can do whatever you want?
They have made that agreement. In fact, in the ministers' meeting that we got blasted for having, I don't remember the...
Oh, no, I remember when Pastor Parsons couldn't answer any of my questions as to what was discussed in the meeting.
In the ministers' meeting, they basically made a pact that they would hand over their pulpits so that Donald Trump could advance his political agenda as long as he gave them what they wanted. Every single element of their evangelical agenda will be delivered in this administration.
You write in the book about not protecting or need to protect yourself. We now know that you recorded meetings, a number of different things. When did you start that? Was there something where you said, you know what, I don't trust what's going on here, I need to get these folks on tape? Was it from the outset? Or was there something that actually happened where you said, I got to do this?
Well, let's just take, for example, the black Republicans who keep saying, I never wanted to meet with them, I never wanted to help them. If I didn't have those recordings of calls of them trying to get them to send candidates so that we could recruit them for positions in the agencies and the administration, people would believe that. If I didn't record General Kelly locking me in the Situation Room, threatening me, and telling me that things were going to get ugly for me, and that there could be damage to my reputation, no one would believe me.
But
that's so important, Roland.
But something has to precipitate that. So, I mean, when I was in Fort Worth, and I knew in Texas it was one-party consent, and if I got called into my editor's office, I could tell based upon the tone, I was like, you know what, I got my tape recorder, let's see how this goes. So was there something that precipitated that where you said, every meeting I go into, I got to record every meeting? Was there a conversation? Did something happen where you say, I better protect my back, and the way I'm going to do this is with a recording device?
If you've ever read the book of Spook That Sat by the Door, you understand that as the only black person in the room, sometimes you're going to hear things that are so shocking that even if you repeat to people, they won't believe it. There were moments where I knew that if I did not cover my back, no one would believe it. More importantly, I would not be able to explain how the decisions were made, how Donald Trump came to the decision to separate parents from their children at the border, or where the genesis of that started. I can't go into much more detail. As you know, Donald Trump has decided to sick his legal team on me. I'm in the middle of an arbitration proceedings with him. But I will say I have no regrets about making those recordings and protecting myself, and we'll use that when we go into the court of law to demonstrate the corruption that I witnessed in the campaign as well as in the White House.
If we were at a dinner party and it was a group of black people, and folks said they named black folks who they could not stand, Clarence Thomas probably would be first, and your name will come up. How does it make you feel when black folks say, you can't invite her to a cookout, we don't want to see her, we don't want to talk to her, she's a traitor? The phrases they use to describe you are vile. How does it make you feel when black folks say that about you?
Well, first and foremost, let's acknowledge that all black people are not a monolith.
Right.
When you say black folks, that's not just one collective group, and we do not all participate in groupthink. So there is a large segment of African Americans who support me, who supported me when I was in, who sent encouragement, who do not reduce themselves to calling names and saying things about cookouts and that sort of thing, because I was the woman in the arena. There's this poem about being the person in the arena who knows victory or defeat, but what's worse is the person who doesn't put themselves out there, who's never fought. I'm a soldier. And so when people call me names and lob threats at me, the truth of the matter is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I've been in politics for 20 years. If you want to put yourself out there, you've got to be prepared to take the lumps and the bumps, and that's what I did. So if people want to call me names and judge me, that's fine, but I had to make sure that the community that I was meant to represent, that I was in there to represent, was represented when decisions about budget and taxation and housing and policing were made. And if that means that I'm going to be called names or people don't invite me to their cookout, so be it. I'm at the point where I will throw my own cookout because I've earned that through my experience, my education, and the ability to put myself out there and make a difference. And when you're making a difference, you're not going to have everybody agree with you. You're not going to be popular. So what? I put myself out there. I follow the path that God has outlined for me, and I stand firmly in what I did. And the regret that I have is that more African Americans don't get involved in the political process. And you know why they don't? Because they see what happened to me. The reason they're discouraged from running for office or getting into political office, because they see the names that I get called, how people treat me, how you get shunned, and they get discouraged. So I'm going to encourage people that we need you. We need them in the race. We need them involved. We need them in the fall during the midterms. And don't get discouraged by the names of the people or the naysayers, the critics. They're always going to be there. But what we need are people who are brave enough to put themselves out there to be change agents for our community. We need that more than anything.
April Ryan gave an interview. She has a book coming out where she says the Trump administration is trying to destroy her career. The two of you used to be friendly. Wasn't she a bridesmaid or something like that, or supposed to be in your wedding? Something along those lines. And it is as if it's absolutely oil and water. Yeah. Do you believe this administration is trying to destroy her career? She early on said that you said there was a dossier on her, on me, Pastor Jamal Bryant.
I called you immediately after that, which was ridiculous.
I don't give a damn. Almost like it's public. But that relationship, I take it, it's non-existent.
Let me just say, I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. You may not know this. I met April when I worked in the White House the first time, back in 1998, 99, when she first was starting and I was starting. So we came up through politics. And I'm glad that she wrote a book so she could tell her story. But I think it's important to understand that she had an incredible job to do in a White House that is not friendly to the press in general. They just don't like the press as a whole. And they have been aggressive to her. And I wish her nothing but luck. I don't hold grudges. I really don't. I have moved on. And, you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, she shared some story about me being drug out and all of that. I mean, obviously with me revealing the tape of the moment I walked in the Situation Room to the moment that I get back into my condo, none of that was true. But it's because she was misled and people used her. I think the White House leaked that to her to use her. And I regret that they did that to her because she has an incredible reputation. And I wish her nothing but the best. I truly hold nothing personal because she was just doing her job.
What's next?
What's next is that I am going to be on the front lines to, first of all, leading a resistance so that we can get this man out of office. One of the things that I did was help him get in, and I hope to commit the rest of my time to getting Donald Trump out of office.
And what does that mean? Does that mean you will, if he doesn't get indicted or if he doesn't get impeached or resigns, that mean that you will be out there, whoever runs against him? If a Republican runs against him, if I was a Democrat, that you will be campaigning against him?
Three tiers. One, voter registration is important. Two, educating voters so they can get out. But three, I mean, I think you know, I've talked about in the book that I participated and continue to cooperate with the Mueller investigation so that we can expose the corruption. And I will continue to do that. And I will continue to blow the whistle on the corruption that's happening. That's important. And that's a big part why I'm traveling the country and sharing this message of getting engaged, getting involved, and making sure that you're on the forefront of the change that we have to see.
All right. The book is Unhinged, an insider's account of the Trump White House. Omarosa Newman. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, folks. Christmas. So you're a Republican. You are very familiar with Omarosa's tenure in this Trump White House. I know you got something to say.
Well, I have a number of things to say. First of all, I don't think she gets her black card back. I think that's number one. Number two, her whole conversation about not blocking black Republicans is simply a lie. She blocked Kay Cole James. Kay, of course, now is president of the Heritage Foundation. She blocked a number of people. When Kay was being considered for a position in the White House, she said, over her dead body. So that is an absolute lie. Look, at the end of the day, she's doing what she has to do to sell her book. I don't find her credible. I've never found her credible. She's a Democrat, which is fine. She essentially is an opportunist, and we see that occurring both in her book and in her conversation with you.
Melody?
I haven't read the book. I heard there's a line in there about me in the book. I don't plan to read the book. I don't have a lot to say about Omarosa. I wish her well, but that's all I'm going to say about that.
Lauren?
You know, I really have nothing negative to say about Omarosa. They hired her. They knew she was a Democrat. They knew who Omarosa was. Like many of the people that they've hired in the White House, the level of expertise for that particular job wasn't there. I mean, and she's a survivor. She's somebody who she does her for her, which I actually kind of like, frankly. I mean, she's a player on the field. But when she was there, the two of us spoke a lot about HBCUs. That's where we kept the conversation. And I care about HBCUs a lot. And despite everything, I think she does too. I think she genuinely does. So I don't have a lot of negative energy to give Omarosa, to be honest with you. It is interesting. I mean, but to me, this White House, you are who you hire, you are who you surround yourself with. They hired her, and I don't know why anybody would be surprised at any of the results of any of their hires.
Henry, go to my iPad. This is what the folks are saying on Facebook. They have been commenting like crazy, big time. Let's see here. Opportunists make a living off of opportunity. Girls, speak your mind. Hello. Omarosa is more relevant than many people. Spread love. Vote November 2018. Let your voice be heard. That's Milton Corbett. Mona Brown, you are a very savvy businesswoman, and we can't blame you for that. Danny Stokes, Roland has the best conversations. Appreciate that, Danny. Let's see. Renee Lewis, I wish we would forgive the oppressor like we forgive each other. And then let's see. Alita says, I think she has learned her lesson. And just a couple of more. Brandon Lee, what the hell? So we got folks who are commenting. Matter of fact, let me just real quick. I know we about to switch over, but let me try to. I'm gonna show Periscope some love. Let me try to get that going. And so that's also the beauty of us, of course, live streaming the show. We get to actually take advantage of all the comments from our folks and people who are on. So I'm trying to pull those up. So, I read a significant part of the book. And the fact of the matter is there are a number of books out there. Major Garrett has a book coming out. Bob Woodward's book is out there. She has her book. I know Omarosa. I don't hate Omarosa. I don't despise Omarosa. The reality is that people you talk to all the time, the bottom line is, like I said before, this is about power. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. If there's somebody who you know, like she knew Donald Trump for 15 years, that person's running for president, and you know ain't there other many black people around, I can jump to the head of the line. And very few people can actually say they work for a president of the United States. Right. That's what you got going on here. I do believe, being in that White House, seeing what was going on, it was cover your ass moment. And the idea to sit here, and I will agree with her. I do believe that if she did not have recordings.
Oh, please, yeah.
If she did not have recordings, they would have said she lied about how she got fired.
Right.
Because, and she is right.
Well, right.
When she
made the right move
she got fired.
Rolling that tape.
Huh?
She made the right move rolling the tape during the Kelly discussion.
Right.
I mean,
because they did tell April. April went out and reported that she tried to storm into the residency. They had to drag her out there, and she says,
what was out there.
And she said, I recorded the whole conversation from John Kelly walking in to me getting to my condo, and none of that.
And it verified once again that there's a bunch of liars in this White House. They will lie about anything. They will lie with impunity, and they will lie right to your face.
Final comment. One thing I will say about it, and when it comes to Omarosa, when Donald Trump, called her out of her name, that's when you saw a lot of black women.
Call her a dog.
Yeah, right. I just didn't want to use that, it is what it is.
David, the show's called Unfiltered. You can go ahead. He called her a dog.
Right.
There you go.
That is when a lot of us did speak up, right? And say that no matter what, you're not going to call this sister out of her name.
Right.
And so, and again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's about this level of vitriol with this president.
And he brought her in there, and now
so,
she's a dog. It's like
right. And so
you know,
that I will say was unacceptable.
Final comment.
Yeah, my only thing
Chris
is
Metzler.
crabs in a barrel. And that's the fundamental problem I have with Omarosa is crabs in a barrel. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, then. We certainly want to thank Melanie, Chris Metzler, Lon Victoria Burke. Folks, this, of course, was the first week of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I want to thank all of you who've watched, who've tweeted, who've posted on Facebook. Don't forget, we also need your support. So if you can go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com and join our Bring the Funk fan club, we would appreciate that because this is about having an independent voice speaking to our issues where other folks are not covering. There's no other daily news show in America on television, on broadcast or cable, that is speaking to our issues and our concerns. This is why me and my team wanted to launch this, because we're having conversations nobody else is having. I can tell you, even that Omarosa conversation, other folks who interviewed her didn't ask the issues about Haiti or HBCUs or Betsy DeVos like I did with her. And this is why we have to have our own platform and our own voice. So I need you to do a couple of things. First and foremost, don't forget it. This is over. If you missed parts of this, all you got to do is you can go back and immediately watch the broadcast on Facebook, on Periscope, or on YouTube. Second of all, share this. Send it out, share it, blast it out to your friends, all of your followers, so they can also see this as well. I also want you to join our YouTube page. If you haven't, liked us on Facebook and join the Periscope channel as well. And also set your live notifications, which allows every time we go live, you immediately are notified. It pops up like a text message, and then you can actually watch what is going on. This weekend, here's what's going to happen. We're going to actually broadcast all 4 shows back to back to back to back on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be streaming them as well. Plus, yesterday's rally by the AME Church outside of the White House, our cameras were there. We were the only folks that were there. If we were not there, guess what? Didn't get covered. So we're going to actually stream the entire rally as well. Another reason why we have to own our own and control our own to tell our own story. On next week, I'll be joined by Bobby Brown on Monday, talking about his career, his recent movie on BET, and he's going to explain to me what the hell is up with New Edition and all this back and forth. Second of all, we'll also be talking with Mario Van Peebles. He has a new movie coming out. Yours truly is starring in that movie. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that as well. And of course, next week is also Congressional Black Caucus, ALC, and Melody and her group. They're launching their report on a survey on the viewpoints in the state of black women in America. It's an annual report, so we'll be talking to her as well. Plus, Cheryl Pearson McNeil with Nielsen on the state of the black consumer. So we got a jam-packed week, and you know how we do it: unapologetic and also unfiltered. Go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I got to go. Y'all have a great one. Holla!